Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to take a look at how you can make an automatic formula going down by rows, but mapping it out with multiple columns. What I mean by that is by row, which is what we looked at in a previous video, only allows for one column to be in that calculation. So if you're using upper, lower, or proper, that only requires one column of data, that would work. Or if you're using that for an X lookup or something. In this one, we're actually going to take a look at the function map that allows you to do multiple columns in order to do things like concatenate for full name, email, and to do some different more complex calculations. So what we're going to do with this is the goal is to first get the full names here. So we would normally do concatenate, and we'd choose this first name, and then you do a comma, space, comma, to show you want first name, space, last name. You'd hit enter. It might suggest the autofill, and you can either do control or command enter or press the check mark. And there you go. I'm doing control down to get to the bottom of the data set, and you can see here that it pulls all the way down and then stops after the table. So I'm just going to go back up. And in this case, we're actually going to try to take this and build it into a formula that automatically does this without needing to pull it down for more data or, pull it all the way to the very bottom and then calculate others. And honestly, if you're using like a form data, this method of just pulling down might not work unless you consistently do it or use an array formula. In any case, what the goal is to only have one function right here, in this case, the row 3, and then just automatically do it. So I'm just going to take all of this and delete it. And now let's use map. Now map is another one that's a Lambda function. It's basically like by row, outside of you can map different values with their arrays and then apply it to that Lambda. So another fancy way of saying you can have more than one, where by row you could only allow one column to use by the row. So in this case, we want B3 down and C3 down. So the array 1 is going to be B3 to B. And then the second array is C3, C. And that will just be at the very bottom. If you add more rows at the bottom, it'll continue and include those rows. So now we add the lambda. And in this, we have to name each one. And we've already mapped out the first one's going to be the first name, or B3 to B. And the second is the last name. So I'm just going to name them accordingly. So first name and last name. And here, this is going to be the function or the formula that we'll be using for this lambda. So now instead of B3, we need to map it to first name. So I'm just going to write first name, and that's going to be that B3. And then here, I'm going to put last name. And that's all that I'm going to do in this one. So now I can close this off, close off the map, and hit enter. And when I do, you can see here that it goes all the way down. Now, since we mapped it all the way, for example, if we add more data here, you're going to actually run into the ref error. So you have to make sure that you're not editing anything in this one. And the other thing to consider too, since we did this with the space there, right here, all of the ones down here after these will technically have the concatenate of blank, space, blank. So all of these will have a space with how we have it set up there. So just keep that in mind. And there's a couple of ways. In this case, you could just put a trim, and that would just remove all of those. But you can also have an if statement of if this is blank, then don't do anything. So in this case, we'll solve it with that. And there you go. So this is the automatic using map to make a full name. So let's start and try another one. It's very, very similar to this one. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this and put it into this email. So the only things that we're going to be changing here, and I'm going to remove the trim, is that we want it to be first name. And let's just say for these emails, we're going to have underscore last name comma, and then we'll have whatever the email is. So at realemail.com. Totally real. I push enter. And now we have these emails. Now I'm going to go down to the very bottom. And here you can see that a little better than this one, where all of this is going to be. And unfortunately, the trim isn't going to work because this doesn't actually have any sort of space, or it shouldn't. I suppose if there were 2 last names or 2 first names, these wouldn't be real emails. But I have some other videos too to look at how you can solve that. So in this one, we'll assume they're all just 1 first name, 1 last name. But in any case, for this, let's make the if. And we could say something like is blank, and we'll use first name. You could use the last name too if you want. And so this is going to come back as true or false. True being if it's blank. So if it is blank, which is true, then do nothing. Otherwise, if it's false, meaning it is not blank, do this function here. So I'm going to push enter, and up here looks the same. I'm going to go down to the bottom, and all of these are now blank. So again, same thing will apply. It's an array, so that will give you that ref error if you do anything in those columns. So pay close attention about editing these. And if we go up to the top here, you can actually see using control tilde that the only place with the formulas are right here, and the rest is the spill. So this is super helpful to be able to troubleshoot and change your functions up here. So if you have something you want to change, you do it on this top row, and it'll change everything. So there's no more second guessing if there's someone accidentally changed one of the functions or formula components. It's, this is the only place you have to edit. It is more complex than just using concatenate just that part here, but it does allow you to do a lot more if you're mapping these out, such as this. So let's take a look a little bit here, and you can actually do calculations with money as well. And so in this case, let's say that you have this here, and I just have an index so we can see it. You could use the index or something else in order to get this, but I just decided to show it here just so that we know. It's going to be each department gets a bonus based off of what department they're in. So we can make Lambda in order to calculate that. What I like to do, and I showed before, is I like to make the formula first and then build in this, mapping and Lambda. So what we need here is to look up what this department is and then get this percentage depending on what the department. So you can say something like X lookup. This is going to be our search key. We're going to search this. And if you have other departments that might be there, you could choose to do this, the entire L, and you wouldn't have to, make any reference there, just as long as there's not a department called department. Otherwise, you could start at L3, and just make sure that you have absolute references, just F4. Then the result range is going to be this bonus. So it's going to be M3 to M. And I'm doing it this way so that when we pull this down, or in this case use the lambda, it's not starting lower as it is, but these are going to be fixed. Finally, if it's missing, let's just put nothing. So enter, and I'm just going to push command tilde, and now we have the bonus percentage. So what we can do is this percentage times the salary. That equals this much. And so that's going to be how much the bonus is based off of the department to the salary. So then you could pull this down, and again, you can kind of see what each one is, and perhaps you want to remove this part just to make sure that it's polling correctly. Like these ones are warehouse, and that's 4%, 10% for admin. And so it does look like it's working. So, these are going to be the bonuses. So again, what you can do with this, since we have both this D3 looking at what the department is, and we're multiplying it based off of the salary, these are going to be the two that we need to make sure we have by the row and map them in this. So map, and we're going to start with the department D3D, and then we're going to map G3G. Now lambda, and this will be the lambda. Remember, you have to put the names for each one, and it will be this department one first of D3, and then G3, which is the salary. So you might want to just say department, and then salary. Now we have the X lookup, and this is where we do have to make sure we map this correctly. So we want to look up the department, and then we want to multiply it by the salary. So that's going to be there. I hit enter. We do get the ref because we have these here. I'll remove these, and you can see those are basically the same. And that's going to be the bonus that we get. And here you can see we're getting some zeros, and that is because we are multiplying it by this salary. So in this one, if we want to remove the zeros, we'll have to do if is number, and we'll do salary. Then let's do this one. Otherwise, if this is not true, then let's go blank. And, oh, I got one too many. Let's see if that does it. And basically what this is going on is that it's going to first do this one with the multiplication, which is by salary. Then after that, it's going to be nothing. And you can actually have that removed if you want it to be, instead of null value, just no value. So we got the bonus. Now the new salary, you could just add these two if you want, but you could also use this and actually calculate the new salary without having this. So if you add this, you could just basically do this, which in the result here is going to be what the bonus is. Then what you can do, and I'm going to put these in quotes because it's going to be whatever this X lookup is, which is the bonus, plus salary. And then I'm going to push enter. Oops. Now I'm going to push enter. And here you can see the salary is actually showing. And you could just remove this bonus and it wouldn't make a difference. Other thing, if you want to double check this work, is you could do this minus this one and then just verify that those do indeed check. And they all do. I'm going to delete it. So that's kind of a couple of different options that you can use. And again, there's a lot more that you can do with both this map and by row. But this is one that I feel a lot of people would find very helpful in stepping up their game. If they're, you're using complex formulas like this, you might as well go one step forward and make it so that you only need to troubleshoot, problem solve, or edit the formula at the very top and, make it just automatically go. And with this, as you go down, and if you add more, data that you have someone else, John Johnson, and it works in IT, you can start creating these, say 90,000. You can see that it just automatically goes regardless there. And you can even, let's copy this, just paste it right here. And you can see that it'll just automatically update here based off of the row. And, again, it's super helpful to go into that next stage. Again, if you're working with others and this is, challenging for them to grasp or understand, or, there's mistakes being made where they're editing below, might not be the best option in your instance. But honestly, if you can teach your team or work with your team, it's a lot easier to just manage one formula for the entire column. Hopefully you have some use cases with this and you are able to elevate your spreadsheet game from whatever level you're at to this more advanced and complex method in order to easily get this entire column streamlined with however you want. So thank you for watching. As always, like, shares, leave comments, subscribe, do those YouTube things. I do appreciate it. We'll see you in the next one. Bye now.